Guess what, guys? This whole video is sponsored by Genshin Impact! So after Genshin loved my Ganyu dolls so much, they contacted me once again and asked me if I would like to make Mualani. So that's what we're gonna do today. But to make Mualani fit my Ganyu doll in size, I'm going to make her as tall as my Ganyu doll, which means we are going to make Mualani 31 inches tall. Blue Pixie did a phenomenal job in sculpting her face and all of her intricate accessories, because we all know how detailed Genshin Impact's characters are. So how about I stop yapping and we get started. Alright, so for this big doll I asked my friend Frosty again to print this 80 centimeter doll, and guess what just arrived? It's here! So how about we unbox the parts and then 3D print the rest that we still need. To make Mualani's sun tattoos, I actually made some vector files and cut them from vinyl so I can mask off the different shapes of the tattoos on Mualani's body before spray painting the rest of her body with a different shade. Finished assembled doll looks super cute already. I love her happy open mouth expression, and as you probably saw, I did already paint her hands, fingernails and toenails and attached her toe rings because I actually forgot to film the complete blank doll until I was almost completely done with the project, but I really wanted to showcase her before we add everything else. How about we make her wig first? To make Mualani's wig, you can see that I already made a wig cap off cam with elastic fabric and PVA glue, and we'll be using some harvested wefts from a blue and white wig. If you look closely, you can see that Mualani does have some blue hair on the underside of her hairstyle, so I start by adding some blue wefts to the bottom of the wig cap first, before filling up the rest of the back of the head with a bunch of white wefts. I also cut a good chunk of the long hair already and styled it with my flat iron. This way the wig styling will be easier to handle. And then I just simply repeat the process for the back of the hair, so I decided to speed this up a little here. When done with the back of her hair, I then take some shorter wefts and glue her side bangs in multiple layers and cut and style them into shape with some hair wax. I then also glue her bangs and cut them a bit spiky so I can style them a little easier. I also add multiple layers until I am satisfied, and then add her ponytail layers to the top of the head by using some folded around wefts for a clean finished line. I then put them all in a ponytail and trim it. Again, like on the bottom of the wig, I add some blue wefts to the underside of the ponytail and also fill it up with more wefts in general to make it fuller. For the final touch of the ponytail, I made her a little braided weft and glue it around the base of the ponytail. For Mualani's hair accessories, I actually printed a gradient to a cotton fabric for her bandana. I will show you later in the video how I actually did that, but basically I just cleaned up the square and folded it in half so I can wrap it like a bandana. To give it more shape, I insert a soft aluminum wire to it so I can bend it in shape. Before adding the decorations, I try it on pumped to see how it will look like, and I love it. So I can then glue some strips I cut from silver pleather around the bandana for the silver details on it. Mualani's bandana has multiple strips and some swirls on it as well that I also cut from silver pleather and attach it to the bandana. It looked super cute when it was finished, so I could then attach it to Mualani's wig. To make the tufts on top of her head, I printed these in resin already, together with some more accessories, washed and cured them, primed them in white in Mr. Super Clear, and add gradients to them with different shades of blue pastel chalk dust and a brush. In the end, I of course had to sparkle some glitter onto them, and then I can glue them underneath the bandana with a good blob of hot glue. Now just the long braids in the back are missing. I simply prepare some wefts for them that I braid and secure the ends with glue, and then I glue them underneath the bandana with some hot glue. I love this fluffy ponytail so much. To finish off the ends of the braids, I printed these hair beads that I paint with a quick transition, and also these little tufts that I painted in a similar fashion to the big one on top of the head. And now I just need to glue the little fins to the beads and then glue everything to the ends of the braids and finish off the wig with that. The finished wig looks so gorgeous and I cannot wait to see it together with the face up. I love that you can definitely see that it's Mualani's hair, but that it still has a natural look to it. So how about we paint Mualani's face now? Blue Pixie did an incredible job sculpting her face, and since Mualani is such a happy and lively character, I wanted her face to resemble that, so we opted for a happy open mouth expression. Of course, she needs to be sparkled up first with some micro glitters before I'm starting to give her some blushing with cute oranges this time. Yes, you heard right, no pink blushing this time. I love how the blushing looks on her, so next I can sketch out the eyelines with a brown pencil. I use brown for sketching because it's easier to erase than black, and since I'm filling in the lines later with black anyways, it's fine like that. I also map out her eyebrows with some grey pastel chalk dust before sealing her off with another layer of Mr. Super Clear. And then I could already start by filling in her eyelines with black acrylic paint and a small nail art detail brush. Simpler lashes and lines are actually harder to paint because all the lines have to be accurate, but it's also really meditative to me. While I'm at it, I also fill in her eyebrows with grey gouache paint before finally filling in her mouth with colors as well. I paint her tongue in a cute pink, her teeth in white, and the inside of her mouth in a dark Bordeaux red. Last but not least, her cheeks of course need some sparkly shimmers, so I add them before sealing her off a final time. While she's drying, let's make her eyes. I printed these eye bases and painted them with white already, and first we'll glue on these printed eye chips. I then attach the eyes to a small cardboard piece and take my UV resin to start doming them. To give the eyes a little bit more life, I decided to sprinkle some holo glitter onto them, because let's face it, everything is better with glitter. After curing the eyes, they look like this, and now I continue to dome them with more UV resin to give them more depth. I spread it with a toothpick and then cure them again before taking my non-wipe UV top coat to gloss them over completely. This step makes the whole eyes extra shiny. I cure them one more time, and here you can see the finished face and the finished eyes. I'm super curious how it will look together, so let's put the eyes in. Okay, that looks so cute. What? Her face looks just so lively and happy. I love it. Now I'm even more curious how she will look all together, but first I have some breaking news for you. Breaking news! The stars have aligned once again. That's right, we got sponsored by the one and only Genshin Impact for this video. Today I'm here to tell you everything you need to know about the Genshin Impact 5.0 update, released on August 28, 2024. It introduces major new content, including the long-awaited region of Natlan, known for its volcanic landscapes and its ties to pyro elements. This update also brings brand new playable characters. Let me tell you a little bit about them. First, we got, you guessed it, Mualani, an all-new 5-star character who is a Hydro Catalyst user from the People of the Springs. We also got Kinich, an all-new 4-star character who is a Dendro Claymore wielder from the Scions of the Canopy. And last but not least, we have Kachina, another 5-star character who is a Geo Polearm user from the Children of Echoes. Natlan focuses on its rich history of war and its 6 stripes, each with unique views on combat. Players will get to explore through new Archon quests, 2 new character story quests, one for Mualani and one for Kinich. Additionally, players can interact with new creatures called Saurians, which offer unique mechanics like helping with traversal or solving puzzles. The update also, of course, includes new weapons, as well as artifacts and long-awaited adjustments and optimizations. But that's not even all, because I got a special bonus for you. If you log in right now, you get to invite a permanent 5-star character of your choice. And if you log in between September 28th, 2024 until the end of version 5.0, you will receive 1600 Primo Gems and other rewards. You can find the link for Genshin Impact and a special gift code in the description box below. I hope you'll enjoy all this new content right after you finished watching this video. So for Mualani, I pretty quickly realized that I would need to get some custom printed fabrics again. But since ordering printed fabrics is time consuming and expensive, I was wondering if there was a way to print on fabrics at home with my regular printer. So I did some research, and apparently it works by just using fabric and freezer paper. So let's try that. I cut a fabric piece in the size of the paper that I can insert into my printer and first get rid of all the fuss with a lint roller. Thanks, Mochi. Then I take a freezer paper that is slightly bigger and iron it onto the fabric with a waxy side facing the fabric. I then simply cut away the excess freezer paper and can then hop onto putting it into my printer. This one is an inkjet printer, but I actually ended up trying multiple different printers, and it worked with inkjet and laser printers. I actually used the laser printer in the very end, because with the laser printers it's even waterproof. And bam! Perfectly printed fabric. I am actually a little bit in disbelief that this worked. I pretty much now just have to peel off the freezer paper from the fabric and can then process the fabric pieces. In this case, I cut them out with scissors and first sew the little darts on the top. I pin them neatly and then set my sewing machine to a 2.0 stitch length and carefully sew the darts in place. I also always make sure to snip off any excess threads neatly, so I won't have a whole thread mess in the end. Believe me, I'm speaking from experience. To make the edges of Mualani's bikini top, I actually laser cut some pleather strips. I know this is golden pleather, but I didn't have any other pleather at hand, so I just ended up spray painting the golden strips in a dark navy blue, and it actually worked better than I thought. When they were all dry, I can then simply take the strips and glue them to the bikini top pieces on the top and bottom like this, and afterwards just fold the seam allowances of the top inwards and glue them in place with some, you guessed it right, glue. After gluing everything in place, it looks really neat, so I can then take both bikini top pieces now and glue them together in the middle front. To make the collar of the top, I actually made a vector file of the pattern piece and cut it from 1mm white EVA foam. The lines for the collar are just scorned into the foam, so they give detail to the foam piece without being cut through. To make them look even nicer, I use my heat gun on the scorned parts and then take some contact adhesive and glue a second strap I cut from foam as well to the bottom of the collar piece. Attached to the doll body, it looks like this, and yes, the body isn't painted here because I was actually still waiting for the spray paint to arrive and actually started making the top before assembling the whole doll. It's not always all in the order that I show in my video. To attach said collar to the top, I glued it to the front of the top, and I also needed to add some straps to the back of the top and glue them in place on the sides. I then attach a little metal ring to the top of the straps that will attach to the collar later on with a little magnet. I 3D printed the vision and the necklace for Mualani in white resin and first will give them a coating in golden spray paint. After I let it dry overnight, the necklace looks like this, and I can now paint it according to Mualani's outfit. The little cross will be orange, the details that connect to the collar piece will be yellow and orange, and the background of the cross will be super dark blue. To make the paint dry faster, I like to use a heat gun in between. The finished necklace looks like this, and I can now attach it to the bikini top with some glue. To make Mualani's vision, I printed it onto some cardboard and used my UV resin to dome it. I think I added 3 layers in total, and then take the golden painted vision frame and simply glue the little vision into place. To make the little bow around the vision, I made these pleather strip loops and basically finally just glue the vision in between those two loops. Here you can see the top so far, and the last thing I have to do now is attaching the vision to the back of the top. Again, I use OOAK glue for that, and the finished top just looks so pretty. I am especially proud of how beautiful the vision turned out, and that I figured out a way to actually be able to get the top onto the doll without actually having to sew her into the outfit. To make Mualani's shorts that she wears underneath her skirt, I cut the pattern pieces from blue fabric already and first sew the front seams finished sides in. I then take a glue stick and glue around the seam allowances on the cutouts on the side of the shorts. Fortunately, with thin cotton fabrics, a glue stick really works nicely for this. After doing this to the cutouts on both sides, it looks like this, and I can now take the back pieces of the shorts and sew some darts on them first. What a transition here, by the way. I also already glued around the cutout seam allowances on the back pieces as well, and now just need to sew both back pieces to the front piece along the side seams. To make the tiny orange triangles on the top of the pants, I cut them from fabric vinyl and simply iron them onto the top of the cutouts with a regular iron. I then could also glue around the top seam allowances of the shorts the same way I did on the cutouts, and then I could finally sew together the back seam until the opening for the closure good sides in. Last but not least, I just have to glue around the seam allowances on the bottom of the legs and sew together the little crotch seam good sides in. To make the tiny ribbons on the side of her pants, I make some perfect ribbons with the help of a fork. This is actually a really neat technique for making perfect tiny ribbons, and then I just have to simply glue them onto the bottom of the shorts on the side seams. In the end, the shorts look like this, and they are absolutely adorable, I think. I also ended up making a little connector piece that actually connects the bikini top and the shorts with each other on the back and pretty much hides the closure on the bikini top, which is pretty neat, I think. Now let's make Mualani's back ribbon. As you can see, I printed a bunch more fabric pieces for this ribbon that I beforehand vectorized in Adobe Illustrator, which actually took me a couple days alone to do. I also cut some additional pieces from gold pleather as well that need to be painted. But first I'm going to make the upper part of the ribbon and first cut out the pieces that I will need for those parts. After cutting them, I then peel off the freezer paper and place the blue lining and the upper part of the back ribbon top pieces together and will sew them finished sides in. Afterwards, and turned inside out, they look like this, and I can now sew them together on the short ends good sides in. I then prep the small droplet pieces and will fuse two droplets together with a fusible sticky interfacing so that I will have a perfect two-faced droplet in the end. I iron it onto one side, peel off the paper, place the second droplet on it and iron it together. Now I simply have to cut away the excess fabric and end up with a perfect two-sided droplet. To finish the droplet parts, I need to paint the golden pleather pieces with some teal colored spray paint and then add some gradient shading to them with blue pastel chalk dust and seal it off with Mr. Super Clear afterwards. When they were dry, I can then place them on back and front and glue them in place. To make the long ribbon parts, I'm pretty much using the same technique as I did on the droplet pieces to have two-sided ribbon pieces, and then it was time to assemble the ribbon. I first glue the droplet pieces onto the big ribbon piece and then take the big top part of the ribbon, glue together the sewn down seams and glue it in place as well. So the last thing missing on the ribbon was actually the pufferfish, right? I, however, was a bit scared that printing it in resin would result in a way too heavy pufferfish, but lucky me, I received a new printer from Elegoo, and this time it's a filament printer. Elegoo was so kind to send me the Neptune 4 Pro printer, so this seems like the perfect opportunity to try it out. So how about we unbox it, set it up, and try printing the pufferfish. perfectly, and now I just needed to prime it with filler primer for cars and then sand it a little to get rid of most of the filament lines. In the end, I primed it with white spray paint and then just painted in the pretty colors of Mualani's pufferfish. The finished pufferfish looks so adorable, and I can now just attach it to the ribbon with a few drops of hot glue. The ribbon will actually later on attach to the top with a magnet, as you can see here. It holds up pretty well and looks super neat. I really love how the ribbon turned out, and can we just appreciate Blue Pixie's amazing sculpting on the pufferfish. Also, I am very happy about my new filament printer addition to my workshop, so thank you so much Elegoo again for sending me one. For making Mualani's skirt and gloves, I actually need a bunch of accessories that I printed in the meantime while working on the clothes, then washed, cured and sanded them and prepped them with some white spray paint. I also printed Mualani's skirt piece onto another sheet of fabric, peel it off the freezer paper and first cut it out. Afterwards, I need to glue around all the seam allowances on top and the little bows on the bottom. This did take some time, so I decided to just speed up the process here a little bit. For the shapes that are on Mualani's skirt, I made a bunch of vector files and then decided to cut them out from white 1mm EVA foam with my laser cutter for a precise look. The shapes turned out amazing, and I'm still super thrilled that you can cut foam and pleather with a laser cutter. Since I will be painting on the pieces later on, I have to prime them and use some Plasti Dip for that. I apply multiple layers and let everything dry thoroughly. And then I could paint the tips of the boomerang looking shapes gray, which took some time, but painting is therapeutic to me, and then I decided to paint the teal stripes with my Posca marker. That was really easy and neat to do with the marker, so I just needed to repeat that steps for all the 10 boomerang pieces. I don't know if they're boomerangs, but they kind of look like them. Before I can put the pieces onto the skirt, I still have to glue some yellow squares to the cutouts of the white pieces from the backside and also repeat that step for all the pieces. Once I was done, they look really cool though, which means I can finally assemble the pieces like a row of beads on the skirt, see if everything fits and then glue them in place with my OOAK glue. When I was satisfied with the shape, I then just need to glue the whole thing onto the skirt, and it just looks so good and really like her original skirt. Yay! For those little halters on top of the skirt, I simply cut some silver pleather strips and triangles and glue them onto the spots where the pieces touch each other to hide any seams. Now only the tassels are missing, and I already printed and painted them before if you remember, so I can simply now paint the upper bead orange, then add some baby blue paint to the outer brim of it, and in the end shade it in a pretty gradient with darker blue pastel chalk dust. The finished tassels look so pretty, and now I can finally glue them onto the skirt as the last missing element. Well, that is of course excluding the ribbon that we still have to make. But I'm pretty happy with the skirt already. As you can see, I did paint the upper part of the ribbon already, since it is a 3D printed piece as well, and I prepped the lower ribbon pieces from painted pleather and another painted 3D printed middle piece. And then I simply have to assemble the ribbon by gluing the long ribbon pieces together and on the back of the 3D printed ribbon piece, and then glue the middle piece of the ribbon to the front of the upper ribbon piece. Oh. In the very end, I then glue this assembled ribbon to the skirt, and with this last step and a closure added, can finally finish off the skirt. This was probably the most intricate clothing piece for this doll, but I feel really taking my time and making all the details look really nice totally paid off in the end, and it looks so much like Mualani's skirt. I'm a bit proud, not gonna lie. On to the shoes. Mualani's shoes are actually some type of sock thingies plus a sandal, so I kind of had to figure out a way how to make these socks first. I decided to cut some of the elements for them from foam, primed them, and then spray painted them in the according colors. I also cut these pattern pieces for the socks from pleather and already painted it with blue spray paint. I will then first sew together the front seam, and I was really hoping that I could sew the spray painted pieces, but in fact it worked like a charm, which means I can now fold the seam allowances on the inside open so I can top stitch the seams to make them lay nice and flat. I basically tried to stitch them only about 1mm next to the seam of the left and right side to give them a really nice, neat and finished look, and it turned out super nice. Here one side is done already, and I will make the other side off cam and bam, it looks so nice. That means I can now sew the upper seam until the marking that I made, and then already also glue around the seam allowances along the whole back seam. And then I take a zipper and try to sew it in as neat as I can. I really dislike sewing in zippers, but this way it seems like the nicest and cleanest way for closure. And with a zipper foot on the sewing machine, it kind of does the trick. At least a little bit. It turned out nice and it closes, so I can't complain. I then cut off the excess of the zipper and also sew the bottom seam of the sock thing good sides in, and afterwards also glue the seam allowances of it flat. To show how it looks later, I put one of the feet into the sock and glue the tip while it's on, so I know it's gonna look neat, and cut off any excess if necessary. Now only the decorations that I cut from foam earlier are missing. I also made some more decorations from painted pleather, and first prepped the upper piece of the sock part by gluing the teal colored pleather parts onto the dark blue foam piece. And then I can take the sock, place the teal colored foam element onto the center front, glue it in place, and then glue the brim around the upper part of the sock. In the end, I just added some more pleather strips to Mualani's right leg by simply gluing them around the leg part. And the shoes you have probably seen I already printed way earlier, and they simply need a paint job. This is pretty self-explanatory, so I decided to just make a little transition here. I also printed 2 ankle bracelets for Mualani and painted them according to her model. The shoes are super cute, and here are also the finished sock things. I'm happy they turned out this nice, and it's good to know that you can apparently spray paint pleather and still sew it afterwards. Such a neat thing to know. And now it's only Mualani's gloves missing. I also prepped some pleather strips for those and spray painted them in teal and blue first. While they were drying, I already went ahead and cut the glove parts from white jersey fabric. Since the fabric is a bit transparent, I will actually double it this time, and will also use some dark blue jersey fabric as well. First, however, I glue around the seam allowances of the white glove parts with contact adhesive, because that glue stays elastic after drying. I do that to both front and back pieces of the glove, and then glue the blue jersey fabric to the front and back pieces. I actually ironed it onto some freezer paper because it tends to roll a lot and is kind of difficult to work with when it does that. After gluing that, I can then remove the freezer paper and glue around the upper seam allowances as well. For the front, I made an extra piece from blue fabric and can now take one of the dried pleather strips and glue it to the upper edge of the piece, before cutting notches into the seam allowances and gluing them around. Afterwards, I then place that smaller piece underneath the front part like this, and then can finally sew together the front and back piece of the glove. Transition to the glove already being on the hand, because I couldn't wait to try and see how it looks like. And it works super nicely. Now I just need to glue the remaining strips around the glove, a teal one on the upper part of the glove and a blue one on the lower part. I also printed and painted this little double bracelet, and just need to add some tassels to it that I made from embroidery thread, and simply glue them to the back of the bracelets. And of course, we can't forget the little seal bracelet that is wrapped around Mualani's right arm. So I already 3D printed it, and it simply needs a cute paint job, and when finished, the gloves and all the accessories for Mualani's arms look like this, and I think everything just looks super duper cute. And I love that with these bigger scale dolls you can actually make little functioning items like gloves. I also did that on Run May, and it's so cool. Okay, so technically everything from Mualani is done at this point, but what is Mualani without her Sharky, right? So Pixie and I thought it would be such a cool idea to make her Sharky, but little did I realize until Frosty printed and sent it how big it's actually going to be for this project. So yeah, painting it, assembling it will probably take a little while. So how about we make a final montage to finish off this whole project? Let's go! And with that, everything for Mualani's project is done, and I can finally put her together for the very first time. And oh my god, she turned out so cute. I cannot wait to show you. So Mualani is finally all together, and I love her so much. But you guys probably are dying to see her. So it's finally presentation time! Woohoo! is my finished Mualani doll plus Sharky. I hope you enjoyed this project as much as I did. I for certainly had a blast with this, and I want to thank Genshin Impact so much again for sponsoring this video. Make sure to check out the game. You can find everything in the description box below and also claim your gift code. The next video is going to be a very special dollhouse build again, so I hope you're looking forward to that. Okay, bye!